The Multicopy tool in Ibex is a powerful tool that allows you to create copies in 3 different patterns. I can open the tool from the Home ribbon here. And when I do, I can see that the first mode is array copy. I can select the star that's in my material, and when I do, I get a preview of the array that will be created. And that I can control through the parameters in my ribbon. So first I have the placement parameter. This allows me to control the position of the originally selected object in the newly created array. So right now I have upper left selected. If I switch to lower left, you can see that the preview in the workspace updates. Similarly, I can move around the placements grid and control how I want to create the array. I also have control over the horizontal and vertical spacing through their parameters. I can adjust the value of the spacing. In this case, I'll increase horizontal spacing to 2 inches. And I'm currently specifying the delta spacing. This means that I'm controlling the space between each object. If I switch to total spacing, I'm controlling the spacing of the left edge of each column and the start of the next column over. I'm going to switch back to delta spacing, and same thing goes for vertical spacing. And on the far right here, I have control over the number of rows that will be created and the number of columns. So if I increase the number of rows goes up. Same with columns. Array copy has another unique parameter for fill material. And what this does is, based on my spacing parameters, the tool will automatically fit as many copies of the selection into the material as it can. So if I enable that, the preview grid I had disappears, and now I have a new grid that is trying to fill the material that I have defined. So if I decrease my spacing here, I'll use the spinner. Once I get past a certain threshold where it can now fit 4 across, it will do that and it'll update, but it maintains the constant spacing so that it evenly spaces as many copies as it can into the material. And then if I click apply, that copy is created. So in this drawing, I have 3 different layers. I'm going to move to the next layer for the next copy mode, and I can either do that by going to the layers flyout on the right and selecting the layer, or go down to the visual toolbar below, and then I'm going to push down to cycle to the next layer down. So in this layer, I'm going to demonstrate the arc copy mode, which is the next copy mode. And I have a preview here shown of the path that I'm going to copy along, or in this case, the arc. So I'll select the star again, and I get a preview of the stars along that arc. So again, I have the placement grid, and I'm going to switch to the center position because in this mode, I'm controlling which part of the selection is placed along the path. So for this one, I typically prefer to have the center placed along the path I'm copying along. I also have control over the radius I'm copying along, the sweep, and the start angles. So in this case, I have a sweep angle specified of 180 degrees, which is half a circle. If I were to increase that to 360, I now get copies along a full circle. I can specify the center of the arc I'm copying along, and then finally the number of copies to create along that path. There's this option here for align. In this case, the copies I'm creating are all oriented the same as the original selection. If I enable align, you'll see that the copies are updated so they're oriented perpendicular to the arc surface. Now you'll also notice that I have a circular contour in the lower right of my material. If I were to click on that circle, the Multicopy tool automatically updates to use that circle's parameters for the arc copy path. See that the preview is now drawn on that circle, and if I click apply, the copies are created. So again, I'm going to cycle down to the next layer for the next mode and click down on the view toolbar and switch to path copy mode. So in the final mode, this allows me to create copies along a selected path. And this can either be done with open or closed contours. So I'm going to, in this case, select the circle as the object I want to create copies of. And first I'm going to select the open contour. I have a curve at the bottom of my material. I again have the placement, and this again controls the position of the original selection that I want placed along the path. Right now I have it aligned, and then I have 5 different modes for creating copies. The first one is creating copies by number, and this allows me to specify a number of copies I want created, and then the tool will automatically space those along the path I have selected. The second option is to create copies by spacing. If I select that, I have a spacing parameter here in my spacing group, and this allows me to specify the spacing between each object I would like to have created, and then the tool will automatically create the maximum number of copies it can fit along that path. If I right-click, I can clear that path out, and I'm going to now select the star to demonstrate the last three modes. The third path option is for all corners, and with the star selected, you can see that a copy of the circle is placed at each corner in the star shape. Similarly, for the last two options, if I select inside corners, now circle copies are only placed at the inside corners of the circle or the outside corners for the final option. And again, just to demonstrate the alignment, I'm going to reselect that I want the bottom of the circle placed at the copy position. And if I turn off align, you can see that all the circles remain in their original orientation. And when I realign, then it aligns them to be pointing out away from the path I have selected. And I can click apply and create the copies. That's it for the multi-copy tool in Ibex.